Hi there, Sue Stapp again. Thanks for joining me. I am going to share with you a beautiful card that is made with this new stamp set. And this is called Lots of Lavender. It's in our new Celebration catalog. And Celebration is the once a year sale that Stampin' Up! Does, and this year it starts January 3rd and it goes through March 31st. And the way that it works is for every $50 in merchandise you spend, either from the annual catalog, our new occasions catalog, or the clearance rack, you can qualify for a free stamp set or another item that's in this book. And there's also designer series paper, there's some kits in here, there's some darling stamp sets. I've been doing a few of them out of this already. And this is what the Lots of Lavender one looks like. And you get 11 photopolymer stamps in this set. And you can see right here, it's free with a $50 purchase. Here's some samples that they have put together. And I'm going to share one with you today that I'm going to be using a watercolor technique. Now, whenever I use watercoloring, I always try and use the watercolor paper, and you also want to use a ink that's going to StazOn. So in this case, I'm using StazOn ink. It's a stamp pad. And the way we're going to be watercoloring today is we're going to use an acrylic block as our palette. And let's just start with some color here. And we'll start with the lighter color and work our way up. And we're going to use our water pen. And we just put a little splash of water on here. Don't need a whole lot. Come on, water. Oh, I got too much. It's going to be really light now. So I'm going to have to put some more ink on here. So all you have to do is dot the little circles on here, and it will build up. And you can do light to dark or dark to light. I like to start with the light because you can always add more to it. And there's only a few ways that you can take off if you get too much color. And I'll show you one of those ways right now. So let's say I had this, and I didn't put a drop in there. I just used what was on my pen. And if it went on a little too dark like that, I can always blot it off with a paper towel, and that will lighten it up. See how much lighter that is? Now, actually, I kind of like that darker color on here, so I'm going to go ahead and color in some of that. And I had brought out a few colors to use on this. These are our Stampin' Right markers, and they are a water-based marker, so you can blend them with the water pen. And we also have some alcohol markers that you wouldn't want to use to blend with the water pen, but they have some great blending potential. So I'm going to add a little bit more on here. And the one thing I like about watercoloring is that you really can't mess it up too bad because it doesn't have to be exact. And the more blotchiness, so to speak, the more creative it looks, the more artistic. And so sometimes I get real artistic. So let's just dab on a few more of these, and then I'll bring in some of the green to show you how we can make this look. And I'm going to keep going lighter up here at the top and just kind of dab it around. Okay, and whenever you want to change the color in your water pen, you're going to just wipe it clean. And again, I'm using a paper towel here. And then let's wipe our little palette clean too. And I'm going to use, the first color was Wisteria Wonder. And this color is Pear Pizzazz. And I'm going to put a little bit of Pear Pizzazz on here. And I'm not going to add a drop of water because as we saw, there's quite a bit of water on my water pen already. So I'm going to dab that on there. And then to put the green on, we're just going to drop that down on those leaves. And again, if you want it darker, you can always do, saturate it more. I think one of the nice things about the pastels in this is it does give that nice watercolor look. So I'm going to put a few more dabs of green in there. And I don't really need, you know, a lot of color in this. The floral piece itself is a centerpiece. And I'm going to also add some green here where our stems are. Just put a little bit down here. And this pretty bow that's on here, I think I'm going to do in a darker purple. And I brought two colors in here. I brought Elegant Eggplant and Perfect Plum. So as I mentioned before, I always like to go lighter to dark. So let's again wipe our little palette clean. And there are two ends to our plant pins, and there is a brush tip, and then there's a fine point tip. And I'm using the brush point today, just kind of put here on the acrylic block. Okay, that has quite a bit of color, so let's see where it puts us at. And maybe, but I want quite a bit of color on this though, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Oh yeah, very nice. Oh, how pretty. Again, I'm just kind of dabbing it between the lines. Doesn't have to be totally exact. I think that's one of my favorite things about watercolors. I'm going to put a little dab down here. Okay, I think that is all the color I need on this particular piece. And that Wisteria Wonder is such a nice, pretty lavender color. So it's so appropriate for lots of lavender stamp set. So what I'm going to do with this piece, now that I have the watercolor done, is I'm going to put together a card. And for the card, I am using the embossing folder. And these are called our dynamic embossing folders. And they put a super deep impression on your cardstock. This is what it looks like in our package. And this one is called Pinewood Planks. And you can see on this how thick it is. It makes great thick impressions. So what I did was I ran this through my Big Shot and I created the background for this. And then I also wanted a little embellishment on here, but nothing too blingy because I want the flowers to show up the most. So I adhered this to a card front, a Whisper White card front, and I'm going to put before I do that, I want to explain. On this, when I cut out the watercolor paper, I used our Stitched Shapes framelits, and that's the series of 12 shapes that you get, 3 oval, 3 circle, and 3 square. And they put this nice stitched shape along the edge of all of them. And I like using that. It just gives it another little pop, but again, not too much bling because you don't want that to be your focal point. So I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to find my little piece of ribbon that I cut. And what I did was I cut this using our punch. It's called Decorative Ribbon Border. And the nice thing about this punch is that it creates this ribbon effect. And the ribbon effect is on both sides. So you don't have one edge, you have but the 2 decorative edges. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. I use my liquid Tombow to adhere this fine stuff. Whoops, I got a little bit too much on there. You just kind of have to put a dot here, a dot there. Kind of, you want it to stay on, but it doesn't have to be totally covered in glue. So, and I'm going to put that on here, about there. And I've cut this the same width as my plank embossing folder, and that is 5 3/8. And then for my lavender flowers, I'm going to use our dimensionals, and dimensionals are our 3D adhesive spots. And you can see on the back of this, I had one that I started to do, and I actually moved it too much while I had the stamp on there, and it made it blurry. So that's what you don't want to do. This is a better image. So I'm going to take this off, and I only need to use 3 because 1 It's not a very large area, but two, because the watercolor paper is so much stiffer than regular cardstock, it's going to stand up. I mean, it really is a lot thicker. And I'm going to place that one right over here. Now, oops, I had a little glue on my finger. I have to get my glue eraser out and take that off. Thank goodness we got tools. But I will take that off. And one thing that you could do if you wanted to make it more dimensional is you could add a little ribbon on here. And I did take some thin ribbon from my stash, and just to kind of show you what that would look like as if you did put a little bow on there. Let me tie a little bow and I'll show you. Again, this is just from my stash. I can't even tell you what the color is. But if you wanted to make it more dimensional, you could actually adhere that with a glue dot, and you have a nice extra feature on your card. So I love this set. I think it's going to have a lot of different uses. I can see myself doing some fussy cutting and making this layered. I'll have some more samples for you down the road, but whenever I first started playing with this, actually I started playing with this yesterday, and what I did was I made a couple of different ones that I was working on, and I'll share those with you. This was an extra in case I goofed up. This one I layered with the green and the mint macaron. Now, mint macaron is a retired color, but I like it, and I think it goes so pretty with this pink in here. So I still did the pear pizzazz in the middle, but the mint macaron on the outside, just because I wanted it light. Doesn't that look like spring? And, you know, lavender doesn't, the flower on this stamp set doesn't have to be lavender. It doesn't have to be purple. On our last card that we made together, we used the marbled background, and that's what this is, just one of the pieces of the marbled background that I had on my desk. And I colored this in with the purple, and in this case I used the darker purple. I used the actually on this one I used fresh fig, and that's a nice color. It goes really nice with this. Now the ink on the marble stamp was perfect plum. So the nice thing is that Stampin' Up! Colors coordinate so well with one another that you can use different colors and still get a very similar look. Now this is one with Pool Party, and Pool Party is a great color too. I accented this with the black layers, and we have the crumb cake base on here over Whisper White. So those are some samples of just some different things that you could do with this stamp set, and I hope, whoops, I didn't glue that down, but I'm gonna leave that sitting on there. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you will give me a thumbs up on this video. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do so, and you'll get updates every time I post a new video. And if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you need a catalog, I'd be happy to send you one out. Just respond in the little triangle below. And I do offer written tutorials on all the cards I make, so if you'd like a tutorial, I'd be happy to share that with you. And I would also encourage you on my website at www.suestamp.stampinup.net to stop by there. I do regular posts, and I am posting one, I did one today that is on my blog. And you can sign up for newsletters, you can read my blog. There's just a lot of information aside from accessing the catalogs on my site. So please stop in. Thanks for joining me today, and happy stamping.